What if I told you the Great Flood wasn't just a story? Or that the fierce Amazon warriors from Greek myths were actually real? For centuries, we've dismissed these tales as pure fantasy, the bedtime stories of our ancestors. But what if science, the very tool we use to debunk myths, is now proving them right? What if the line between legend and reality is way blurrier than we ever thought? Get ready, because we're about to uncover 5 ancient legends that science now suggests are shockingly real. We've always been taught to keep myth and history separate, but incredible new discoveries are starting to rewrite the books. From forgotten technologies to entire civilizations once thought to be imaginary, the scientific evidence is getting harder and harder to ignore. Today we're counting down 5 of the most amazing examples where hard science and cold, archaeological facts have looked at our oldest legends and said, hang on, that actually happened. We'll travel from the foggy coasts of the North Atlantic to a legendary city of war, and what we find will change how you see the past forever. Coming in at number 5 is a piece of tech straight out of Norse mythology, the Viking Sunstone. For centuries, the sagas told of heroes using a mystical crystal, a solarstein, to find the sun even when it was hidden by thick fog or had set below the horizon. To historians, this sounded like pure fantasy. A magic crystal to explain how Vikings navigated the treacherous North Atlantic. How could a simple stone possibly find the sun on a cloudy day? It seemed impossible. But then, a discovery made the impossible seem plausible. Researchers studying a 16th century shipwreck found a small, cloudy crystal identified as Iceland's spar. This crystal has a wild property called birefringence, which splits light beams in a very specific way. If you rotate the crystal, you can find the one point where the light becomes perfectly aligned, an angle that points directly toward the sun's location, even when you can't see it. Suddenly the myth didn't seem so mythical. While we still don't have direct proof of Vikings using these on their ships, we now know a sunstone could have absolutely worked. It suggests the Vikings, masters of the sea, might have been using advanced optical science that was later forgotten for 1,000 years. The sunstone wasn't just a magical fantasy, it's a look into the incredible ingenuity of the Viking Age. At number 4, we have a legend so famous it's become the benchmark for all mythology, the lost city of Troy. For thousands of years, the story of the Trojan War, from Homer's Iliad, was considered just that, a great story. The heroics of Achilles, the tragedy of Hector, and the trick of the Trojan horse were thought to be fiction. The city of Troy itself was believed to be as imaginary as the gods who supposedly interfered in the war. That all changed in the 1870s thanks to the obsessive quest of an amateur archaeologist named Heinrich Schliemann. He used the geographical clues in the Iliad to lead him to a mound called Hisarlik in modern-day Turkey. And what he found there stunned the world. Layer by layer, he dug up the ruins of multiple cities built on top of each other. One of these layers, Troy's Ever, showed clear signs of a brutal war, including scorch marks and skeletons dating right to the late Bronze Age, the same time as the legendary Trojan War. The wow moment was realizing the city from the epic poem was real. Later digs have only backed up Schliemann's find. revealing massive defensive walls and gates that match descriptions from the ancient texts. The story that defined Western literature wasn't just a story. The walls that legends say Hector defended were real, proving that one of history's greatest myths was born from a very real and very brutal war. Our third legend is the tale of the Amazons, the fierce, all-female warriors of Greek mythology. They were said to be a nation of women who could fight as well as any male hero. For centuries they were dismissed as a male fantasy or a cautionary tale about women who stepped outside their traditional roles. But what if the Greeks weren't just making it all up? What if they were writing about a real culture where women were warriors? The proof started turning up in the 1990s when archaeologists began digging up ancient burial mounds or kurgans across the Eurasian steppes. They expected to find male warriors, but instead they found the graves of women, buried with all the honors of a warrior. These skeletons were found with spears, arrowheads, and daggers. Their bones showed signs of life on horseback, and many had battle injuries. One skeleton was even found with an arrowhead still stuck in her body. These were real-life warrior women from the Scythian and Sarmatian cultures, nomads who lived in the exact regions the Greeks called the Amazon homeland. The legends weren't fiction, they were history, just seen through a Greek lens. These were the real warrior women who inspired the myths. If you're enjoying this journey into the hidden truths of the past, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're always digging up new mysteries, and you won't want to miss what we explore next. The runner-up is a story that exists in almost every ancient culture, the Great Flood. From the Epic of Gilgamesh in Mesopotamia to the story of Noah, there's a legend about a world-ending flood sent to wipe the slate clean. For a long time, scholars assumed these were just allegories about divine punishment. A global flood just seems scientifically impossible. But what if the legend wasn't about a global flood, but a regional one so catastrophic that, for the people who lived through it, it felt like the end of the world? This is the core of the Black Sea deluge hypothesis. Geologists William Ryan and Walter Pittman proposed that during the last ice age, the Black Sea was a much smaller freshwater lake. As the glaciers melted, the Mediterranean Sea rose. Around 7,500 years ago, the rising seawater may have breached the strip of land at the Bosphorus Strait. Geologists who support this theory believe that salt water poured into the freshwater lake with incredible force. According to this hypothesis, the water level in the Black Sea rose by about 5 to 10 meters, that's 16 to 33 feet, which, while not hundreds of feet, was still enough to swallow up huge areas of coastline relatively quickly. Though the exact timing and scale of the flood are still debated by geologists, it presents a fascinating possibility. For the advanced farming communities living on the shores of that lake, this event would have been an apocalypse. Their entire world would have vanished underwater, an event that traumatic would be passed down for generations, eventually becoming the story of a great, world-ending flood. The myth wasn't about the whole world flooding. It was about their whole world flooding, a real catastrophe that could have given birth to one of humanity's oldest legends. And at number 1 is a story that shows the incredible power of oral tradition to preserve an event for thousands of years. It's the story of the Klamath people of the Pacific Northwest and their legend of how Crater Lake was created. The legend tells of a huge battle between two spirit chiefs. Lau, the chief of the below world who lived inside the great mountain Lauiaina, and Skell, the chief of the above world. They threw fire and red-hot rocks at each other, shaking the earth and plunging the land into darkness. The battle ended when Lau's mountain collapsed in on itself, trapping him inside. The giant hole left behind was then filled with pure blue water, creating what we now know as Crater Lake. It's a fantastic story. But here's where it becomes history. Geologists know that Crater Lake was formed by the massive eruption of Mount Mazama about 7,700 years ago. The scientific account of what happened perfectly mirrors the Klamath legend. A massive eruption hurled rock and ash for miles, blanketing the region in darkness. Then the volcano collapsed into its own empty magma chamber, forming a giant basin, or caldera. Over centuries, that caldera filled with rainwater and snowmelt, becoming the deep blue lake we see today. This isn't a coincidence. Artifacts from the Klamath people have been found buried under the ash from that exact eruption, proving they were there to see it happen. This means the Klamath have passed down an accurate eyewitness account of a massive geological event for nearly 8,000 years. It's one of the oldest stories ever told, a stunning confirmation that our ancestors weren't just storytellers. They were observers and historians preserving literal earth-shattering truths as myth. From a mythical stone that turned out to be plausible science, to a legendary city of war, real-life female warriors, a world-changing flood, and an 8,000-year-old memory of a volcano, these discoveries are more than just interesting facts. They're a reminder that the past is not as simple as we think. They challenge us to listen to the stories our ancestors told, not as fantasy, but as echoes of a world we are just now beginning to understand. It really makes you wonder how many other legends are out there just waiting for the right discovery to prove them true. Which of these legends blew your mind the most? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to explore more incredible truths hidden in our past, be sure to check out our video on lost cities that were recently discovered. Thanks for watching.